I'm Rosemary Armao, and this is an Armao on the Brink. We're talking this week with two really intelligent, smart women who have uh, given me the best conversations about books that I've ever had. I'm hoping we'll do the same for you this week. One is my sister. Yes, there's another Armao. This is Kate Armao. She's the middle sister, sometimes known as the quiet or the forgotten sister. But she, like our other guest, reads widely and voraciously, and her love of books is contagious. You want to say something here, Kate? Interject.
Uh,
Oh
I guess
yeah,
I am the
yes,
quiet sister.
yeah.
So
That sounds real intelligent. Our
yeah,
mother,
no.
our mother says this is a sister who can do anything, and it's true. She made the curtains in my house. She fixed the plumbing after the plumber couldn't do it. I actually got a discount return from the plumber after I showed them what my sister did. She can do anything. We'll see if she can do a podcast. And our second guest is Laura Bellinger. Laura and I met mostly on Facebook is how we've come to be friends, but she's a crazy person. She skis cross country, downhill, she hikes, she bikes, she's got a Harley. She's amazing. She's a retired high school business teacher, very smart. And again, just an eclectic reader. There's no specialty. She just consumes it all. She takes notes. It's inspiring. It actually makes me just want to give up because I'll never get there. So the first question for these two women, these two readers, I've asked off mic, and it was, what's your favorite book? And of course, that's a horrible question to ask a book lover. And they both have submitted lists of books that they loved, and those will be available on our website for you to take a look at. But now I'm going to ask them, okay, here's the scenario. You are on a desert island, you are stranded, there's no rescue in sight, you get one book. Don't know how long you're going to be there. You may have to read it a billion times over and over. It's all you have. What would that one book be, Laura?
Anything by John Irving.
Oh, that's a good. Now, why do you say that? Explain that to people who are not John Irving fans.
Okay, I think I've read almost every one. The books are really long. So if you're on a desert island for a long time, they're usually intergenerational. The characters are so interesting. In Until I Find You, they traveled all over the United States, all over Europe. He went way into the art of tattooing. People can
Yeah.
recognize each other from where they've been. And the main character sought out organs to play these famous organs. Isn't that
And that
interesting?
and that's a personal interest of yours,
Yes.
Laura, is the organs part. Yeah. Irving is the author of The World According to Garp, which made him famous because of a movie with uh,
Robin
who was
Williams.
Robin Williams. That's Thank you. The name escaped me. But his other books are many of them, and they're all wonderful. Cider House Rules is a favorite. Owen Meaning is another one. Kate, what would be the one book that you'd want to have with you stranded?
Well, I'm really conflicted about this. So because I have a couple of suggestions. I maybe 100 Years of Solitude because it's
Oh,
long
that's a good
enough
one.
and complex enough. I haven't read it in a while, and it would be I'd get something out of it as I read it. Other possibilities or Great Expectations by Dickens, also long, and but that one
Complex.
probably not. Uh, Ulysses, because I've never read it, and
Ah,
so I would have to read it, because
I
everybody.
would I would kill myself with Ulysses. I mean,
So
really.
so yeah, I probably wouldn't do that one, but that would probably make me read it.
Yeah,
And then
Ulysses, Kate, was required reading for my college roommate. She was an English major, and when she read the book, she had Joyce in front of her, a dictionary over here, a reference to Joyce over here. She had like 8 books, so that would not work on a desert island where I'm only giving
okay.
you one book.
Well, my other possibility would be a dictionary. Like
Ah,
the
that's
Oxford American Dictionary, and you could keep yourself amused learning new words all the time. But
well,
that
that's
might get
interesting.
boring. So,
Yeah, it might get boring after all, and there'd be no one to show off to. You have to, if you know a lot of words, you got to be able to show off.
well,
I
I'd be getting rescued at some point, and then I could show off to my rescuers. So,
They might leave you and say, "Leave this elitist bitch behind," you know.
so
I think I would pick well, like you said, anything by Charles Dickens, but maybe Bleak House. Again, really long, multiple characters. When you read it a second or third time, you would find new things to be intrigued by, I think. Or my second choice would be a book I've long recommended. I think I gave it to you, Laura, to read, and that is The Oldest Living Confederate Widow Tells All. Has the longest
Yes.
title in history. Written by a man in the voice of a woman, which always intrigues me. A wonderful story about the South and about family. I think that's just a great book. I could read that a couple of times. And our mother, Kate, would undoubtedly pick Gone with the Wind, which she has read 14 times in her life that I'm aware of, including once aloud. I read it to her.
Or she might have taken Cane Mutiny. She might do Cane Mutiny.
She does love that one. That is a classic as well. Okay, how do you two read? I've said you're voracious and wide-ranging. You read how many books in, say, a month, and do you read them in book form or on a Kindle, on a computer? When do you read? What's your reading habit? Kate first.
Well, I usually have 3 books going at a time. I have one actual book that, a hard copy book that I read. I have a book on audio that I listen to when I'm doing something that I can be listening, like walking on the treadmill, that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
then I have a book on Kindle on my phone, so that if I get stuck somewhere and I need something to do, I always have my phone. I may not have a book with me, but I have my phone with me, so then I have a book.
Okay, how about you, Laura? Does that sound familiar?
Oh, that's how I was going to start out. I've listened to 33 audiobooks using the Libby app since August. And I feel very nervous if I'm somewhere and I don't have a book. And when I'm getting near to the end of a Libby book, I make sure my next one's queued up. And my Libby books are a treat. So I only let myself listen when I walk or I'm in the car or I'm on my stationary bike. And
I,
then
I want to interject and say Libby is a library app. It's a great app. You can get it from your local library, and it's well worth it because you
I
can.
was just going to ask what it is. I have Kindle and Audible books on my, but I don't have Libby. I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it. So
Oh,
we'll
okay.
put something up on the website for people who might be interested in exploring this.
Oh, good.
Um, mhm. I
And
find that, oh, go ahead. We cut
and
you
I
off.
always just like Kate said, right now I've got the Stephen King book you let me borrow, and Legacy by Uche Blackstock, MD, that just came out about racism in medicine. And so I always have a fiction and a nonfiction on my kitchen table. And
Wow.
I've read, I just went back through my list. I've read 51 nonfiction since I retired,
Wow. And how long has that been?
4 years.
Hmm. I have to be in a mood to read nonfiction. I think because I write it and edit it all the time, I'm usually looking for fiction, and fiction eludes me as a writer. So I am entranced when you have a writer. I've already said Dickens is one, Stephen King is another, Tolkien is a master who create an entire, not just a little space, but a whole world peopled with fully fleshed out humans. I am intrigued by that. So I like to read those, and I like to do nothing else. I don't like to cook, take care of babies, feed the cats, anything. I just like to become totally lost in a book. But as I've gotten older, it's a little bit harder. I don't see as well, so it's harder to read in bed, I find. I have to have a strong light. I don't know. And I think the screen has ruined us somewhat too. I'm reading articles on a little phone or on a laptop rather than a book. Did you have that same thing, Kate? You still seem to read way more than I do.
I find I go through phases where I will read a lot, and then I just don't for a bit, and I
Hmm.
have to get back in it. So, but I still try to have books going, and I get books from all over.
Right, right.
From
The other odd thing I notice is that I can't see books as homework. I used to write book reviews, and I was popular as a reviewer, so much so that one place sent me like an entire box of books, and I just utterly froze. I sent them back. I didn't want to read them all. It was like too much work. I want the book to be a break, and even if it's nonfiction, it frequently is, I don't want it to be something I have to write about. It's for me.
Well, the kind of nonfiction I like, I generally read fiction, but the kind of nonfiction I like is stuff that reads like fiction, like John
Right.
Krakauer,
Right.
Candace Millard, who wrote Destiny of the Republic.
That's a great book. That's on your list.
Yes, and Gene Weingarten, who One Day is one of my favorite books.
I'm
So,
pleased by that because I recommended it. Gene used to work with me a billion years ago at the Knickerbocker News in Albany, and he is a fabulous writer, has won 2 Pulitzer Prizes, and then has, done fiction now, books, not fiction, sorry, nonfiction, as well. He's great. Um, One of your favorite books, Laura, talk about that. You have many on your list. I was going to suggest one, but I think I'll have you pick it. Pick one and talk about why you love it.
When I printed out your list of questions and I just wrote, I can't, well, you said top three authors.
Yep.
And so not books, but top 3 authors. And I said Jeffrey Deaver, Eric Larson. Oh, wait, no,
Oh,
that's,
Eric. Yeah, Eric.
Have you read Eric Larson?
Oh, he's wonderful.
Isn't he great?
Yeah, he
So
really
would
is.
you call that historical fiction?
I don't think it's fiction.
no, it's not
It's
fiction.
not fiction at all. It's deeply researched. It's written like fiction with
Right.
with narrative and characters and description, but his stuff is all real.
Right.
He's written about Nazi Germany. He's written about the World's Fair in Chicago,
The Lusitania.
the Lusitania, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll stop there, but I like anything by him, Frederick Bachman, Carl Hyacin for a laugh.
Yeah, he's funny. He's very
Yeah.
funny. When you read, Laura, I know this because I've seen these lists. You take notes on main points or well said things. Do you take the notes while you're reading, or do you recall them later, or do you dog ear the pages and go back? How does that happen?
I highlight and then I go back and write notes. So I know I sent you notes to War Made Invisible. And I
Right.
just loved the voice of the last living Confederate widow. And I sent you a bunch of one-liners of hers
Yep.
that I liked.
Yep.
And then A Fever in the Heartland. I think I sent you my notes from that about the rise of the KKK in Indiana.
Yeah, fascinating book.
Yes.
Another nonfiction book. For years, I have like 8 notebooks now since I was, in high school, took down bits of writing from books that hit me. And every so often I go back and read those notebooks, and they're unerringly things like descriptions of places, which is not something that I write myself. But it's filled with that beautiful descriptions that capture a scene or a setting, or great quotes, which of course, as a journalist, I do like a lot. Do you take any notes like this, Kate, or do you read and forget?
I read and forget, which as I get older is getting to be more and more a problem. It'll be like I can't remember something I read a month ago. So
Well,
I should take notes.
I'm not sure that that's the answer. I do like the question though, is what's the point of reading? Because we all forget. Even if you have a great memory, you can't read the way you guys do and many other people and remember everything. So what's the point of reading?
Escape.
which is why we're talking about it on this podcast, which is about horrible things happening in the world and all the things we do to escape the horrible things in the world.
Right.
So escape. How about you, Kate?
Yeah, I would agree. Escape, diversion, the secret to life is enjoying the passage of time. So reading passes the time, and it's a pleasant way to do it.
Oh, man, then maybe I'm the odd one out because I always hope I'm going to learn a secret, something about life or living in a book I read. Something will strike me as so obvious that I never thought of before. That's what I look for when I read.
I get attached to the characters sometimes. I'm so sad when it ends because like, these are my friends, and I can't like the Guernsey Literary Potato Peel and Literary Society.
Right.
got so sucked in. And when that ended, I was so sad. And then, like you said, I do keep journals I've had since high school where I write down one liners or passages that just strike me. And in last night in Twisted River by John Irving, they were staying with maybe a Chinese couple. And when they had to leave, the Chinese couple said to them, Shebada, and it means can't bear to let go. And
Ah.
I'm going to get so sappy right now. My cat had just passed away, and I had that written on a little memorial for him.
We are listening to two women who, like me, are love to read and value books. Laura Bellinger, a retired high school business teacher, and Kate Armao, my sister, and a retired midwife from Ithaca, New York. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a minute with more about books. Armao on the Brink is brought to you by the Donna Frank team of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Blake Realtors. That's a mouthful. But Donna is super impressive. We met when she worked at WAMC as a crack fundraiser. And since then, she's moved on to become also crack, a licensed real estate salesperson. Last year, she ranked as the top agent in the capital region. If you need honest answers about your real estate, check in with her. You are going to be impressed too, I promise. You can reach her at, this is the email, DonnaFed, DONAFED @gmail.com. I want to thank you, as always, for listening to On the Brink. Let me tell you about some of our sponsors. I'm so proud of their support. The Apple Barn and Country Bake Shop on Route 7 in Vermont is closed right now. It is winter, you remember. They're closed until March 15th, but plans are already underway for a big spring reopening, new festivities. I understand mimosas may be involved, along with the donuts and pies that they're famous for, the Apple Barn. So keep an eye on their website. It is theapplebarn, all one word.com. You'll hear and see announcements there. Karen's Place, Karin, is a gorgeous retreat. I've been there and visited on 22 acres out in Vermont, rural Vermont. It's available for rental for everything from weddings and family reunions to corporate conferences. It's close to city centers around here, but you would think you were in another country. It's beautiful. Go to www.karensplacevt.com. Thank you. Have either of you, Laura Bellinger or Kate Armao, avid readers, ever heard of Sundoku? Tsundoku. Have you ever heard of this? It's a new word for me too. It means, it comes from Japanese, and it means the piling up of books without being read. I love that there's a term for my messy bedroom, Kate.
I was going to say, I'm thinking of your bedroom right now.
Yeah, I pile them up and I mean to read them, but that more and more come in. And Laura, you're responsible for that. I read one book and suddenly there's four more from Laura saying, "Oh, you have to read these." Um, Umberto Eco, the author, has a wonderful saying that's been moving all over the internet lately, but I looked it up. He really did say it. He himself had a library of 30,000 books. And people, he said, fell into two categories. One said, "Oh my, that's remarkable, all those books." And the other group would say, "Oh, you're never going to read them all. These will cost a fortune to move from one place to another if you ever go." But he called it his anti-library. And he said that it was valuable to have a collection of books because you never knew what you might want to know in the future. And there it all was in books that he would have on hand. Just like you have lots of medicine in your cabinet in the bathroom that you don't need all at one time, but you keep it there for those times that you do. Does this resonate with either of you?
No, not for me. I think the saddest thing for a book is to sit on a shelf collecting dust and not getting read. and
Oh,
and I just feel bad for the book if it's, so books should move around and get read and be used and not just sit on a shelf. So I keep very few books around. I keep a few that I but will probably reread. But once I'm done with a book, I'm done. And if I want it again, I'll get it again. So
all right. Laura, how about you? You have a small house, unlike Kate and I. So
Yes.
you have storage restraints.
I do. But I recently just came to the same philosophy as Kate that I'm thinking probably in reality, I will never read these books again. I used to have all the hardcover Stephen Kings and stuff. And now I give them all to you or to Johnstown Public or to Johnstown Public Library because I buy them brand new. They're beautiful. If I haven't highlighted them, they're beautiful when I'm done with them. And I think the same way that I would just assume that somebody be reading them. And I told you when we had a discussion, the only ones that I have kept are my true life Adirondack uh, tragedy books, the Adirondack tragedy, Lady in the Lake, privileged
Uh-huh.
information about Robert Garrow. And then I have a couple of prized books of poetry by Edna St. Vincent Millay and a biography about her. And those I won't part with. But
That's
everything
interesting.
else I give away.
That's interesting. For years, mine was oldest living Confederate widow, and I finally gave it away to you, saying I don't think I would read it a third time. So
Yeah.
I'm slowly breaking my habit. I have a small lending library that I put out books, and people are welcome to come and take some or leave some other ones. I use those every place I go. I just recently went to my condo in Florida, and down in the community room, there was a library filled with great books. And I had a hard time taking only a few. I didn't have enough to leave. Where do you send your books when you're done, Kate?
well, Ithaca has a lovely used book sale every year.
Oh, they're
So
famous for that, aren't they?
yeah, it's the Friends of the Library book sale. So I donate to there, or I pass them on to friends in my book club. We just kind of, or to my sisters, and we just kind of dissipate, and you'll say, "Do you want it back?" No, and the book
Yeah,
goes
the
away.
sisters are kind of a wandering book club, aren't they? It's like, did you read this? Yeah, I gave it to you. Do you not remember? And no, we don't. They go in a circle. Book clubs. I'm a book club dropout. It's that homework thing again. As soon as they said have this book read in 6 weeks, I couldn't do it. Kate.
I've been a book club member for over 20 years now with the same women. Unfortunately, we talk less and less about the books and more about each other, but we still read. Um, and it's been good because they will suggest books that I probably never would have
Picked
read.
it up on your own. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I just get those from you, so I don't need the book club.
exactly.
Laura, how about you? Are you in a book club?
Well, going off something Kate just said, my mother was friends with this woman who lived in New Jersey, and she was a teacher and very, very bright person. And she belonged to book clubs down there. And she would say to my mother when they were up at the lake, I know your daughter reads, pass this book on to her from our book club. And it made me read stuff I would have never read.
Right, right.
And the book, I pushed myself, and the books were amazing. And then when I was teaching at my first school, we started a book club, and I hated it. We talked about the incident of the black dog in the night. Are you familiar with that one?
Look, I love that book. The
Okay,
Incident
I
at
love
the
the book, but
Yeah.
the people in the club made it all about themselves, whose son was whatever, and this and
Oh
that. And
no.
I was just turned off by it. And then my minister, I have a new minister. She's very cool, very progressive. She started beer and Bible on Tuesdays, and we have Bible study at a bar. And but we did the personal librarian, and that was my one experience with Zoom. And we only had
Mhm.
to read like a couple chapters at a time. Then we would meet by Zoom, and I would have things highlighted. And I really enjoyed that. The other, it was all women. It had insightful comments to make,
Ugh.
and geez,
Ah,
I
I'm under
liked it.
I'm understanding why I would hate this. I would be all competitive that I didn't have the most insightful thing, or that no, I have to read on my own. Yeah,
I,
that's bad.
I'm famous in my book club
Hate.
because I always hate the book. And
Okay, well
but I
that
also take it that I have also suggested books that they love.
that they
So
loved. Okay, they didn't hate them. All right, but that plays up to the next question I want to ask, which is think of a book you read that was just raved about by the critics, the next hottest, biggest thing, and you detested it. Laura, I know what yours is.
You know mine.
It's Demon Copperhead,
Yeah.
which I think is an amazing book. It won a Pulitzer Prize. It is a modern retelling of David Copperfield, set in Appalachia. It is stunningly, brilliantly conceived. It made me not only, and Kate, I think you did the same. Not only did we
I
read the
also
book,
liked it. Yeah.
yeah, we read the book and then went back and listened. I listened to it. I think you did too, an audio of the original David Copperfield to see how intimately the new version followed the old, even while it was totally new material. But you hated it. Why, Laura?
Well, I read chapter 1 and all this bad stuff over and over and over happened to this kid. And I'm like, seriously? And it was just way too much trauma. I couldn't do it. And I did the same thing with Atonement. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I
Francis
didn't,
book.
it's one of the rare books I didn't finish. And later on, I saw the movie and then I understood what happened. And oh my God, now I was so heartbroken. Then I loved this story once I finally understood it. And right now I'm reading This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger. He wrote Ordinary Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing is happening. I like threw my phone the other night. I almost gave up on it because it's a group of young kids and it's bad, 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 bad. I'm 9 hours into a 13-hour book and all bad has happened to them. And in my head, I keep thinking, oh my God, this Tender Land, it's Demon Copperhead combined with Huck Finn. What is happening? Because the kids are canoeing down a river while all these bad things are happening.
That's funny.
I
Kate,
know.
what's a book that you read that you could not have disagreed more with the critics over?
Well, a lot of mine are classics. Do you want classics or modern? I can do
You can do both.
Moby Dick.
Oh,
Moby Dick
awful,
was an
awful.
awful, awful, awful book. It was just 800 pages or whatever it was of talking about whaling and blubber and scaling and no, it just was a terrible book. And The Grapes of Wrath. I also hated The Grapes of Wrath.
What? Oh, that's I like that one. Moby Dick, I'm totally with you on. I did a series of books that we were forced to read in high school that I got nothing out of. And most of them, I reread them in my adulthood and it was like, oh, that's why they wanted us to read this. This is amazing. And then I did Moby Dick and I go, nope, it still sucks.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Wuthering Heights is also up there. I hated Wuthering Heights.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about romance and
Okay,
love
well,
in books in just a minute. I'm going to take a break here. We'll be back soon with readers Kate Armao and Laura Bellinger. I love our sponsors, and I want to tell you about two more of them. One is Pine Valley Press of Williamstown, Mass. It was founded way back in 1979. Go here. I'll give you their website in a second. You can find here and even order the music of David Keckley. He is the composer who put together those segments that you hear at the beginning, the end, and in the intervals in our podcast. We get numerous comments, usually almost always compliments about that music. That's Pine Valley Press, all one word.com. Check it out. And one of our first sponsors, still with us, has been Peacock Pots Pottery. That's a tongue twister for me. They offer the unique work of their founder, who is engineer turned artist, Ona Papagiorgio. You can check out the pictures of what she is capable of. It's really remarkable. At, again, all one word, peacockpots.com. Well, Valentine's Day is right around the corner as we are taping this, and Kate has just mentioned Wuthering Heights as a book she hated as a child and now, and that is on the list of everybody who has ever been asked what are the greatest books about love and romance. Wuthering Heights is right up there, Kate. How do you reckon this with your own experience?
Well, I didn't read it as a child. I hated it as an adult. I read it recently. It was dark. I hated the characters. Um, Everyone was miserable. They were in this cold, dank place, and I didn't see love at all. It was like who loved whom. I just didn't get the point of it.
Laura,
So
how about you? Have you read Wuthering Heights? Do you like that book?
I think I only saw the movie because
That does not count.
I know I'm kind of with you when you sent us your notes that I don't really do romance.
Yeah, that is the real question I want to get at. I work in a used bookstore. As I say, I have a lending library on my front lawn, and overwhelmingly, the books that move, that come into me and that go back out as people want are romance novels. The ones with that we make fun of with the bursting bodices and the Nora Roberts and Danielle Steele's. And I have truly tried to read one of these, and I find them sophomoric and foolish, and I laugh when they start talking about nipples pebbling, and I just can't do it. Kate, do you see the appeal of these books?
I used to read romance as kind of snack books. I still have snack books now, but they're now mysteries are my snack books.
Yeah, that I can see.
And you would get in the mood for a romance a novel, but some of them are just so badly written. Even I can't stand them. I don't read romance now, but my favorite book of all time is Pride and Prejudice, which is the ultimate romance novel. So I reread that book every year. So I love
that is again something Kate has inherited from our mother. If she's read Gone with the Wind 14 times, Pride and Prejudice is right behind it. Even now, in kind of deep senility, she can recall passages from that book. It's just uncanny. So, what about it, Kate, that's so deeply romantic or that hits you?
Well, I like Pride and Prejudice because it has a smart heroine who's not gorgeous, and I can sort of relate.
Okay,
And
that's good.
she gets the really hottest guy, at the end. It's great writing. It has the best first sentence of any novel ever written, which of course I can't remember it now, but we'll post it on
We
the
will we will post it. Yes, all the questions that we're leaving unanswered in this fast-moving discussion, we will answer later on. Laura, how about you? Any books on love, romance,
Yes,
the joy of connectedness that you want to recommend?
kind of. Um, have you ever seen that movie? It just comes on randomly and I love it. Same time next year with Alan Alda.
I love that
I
movie.
love that movie. Well, there's a book, maybe you know it, 28 Summers by Ellen Hildebrand.
I did not know there was a book. I'm going to go get it right away.
Yes, and it's sort of based on that, and I really liked it. And then I read every Janet Ivanovich. She's my snack book, as Kate says. And there's this sexual tension between the main character, Stephanie Plum, and her boyfriend, Morelli, who's a cop, and then this deep, mysterious guy named Ranger. And they're always all kind of, she's always kind of back and forth between the two guys. There's always a sexual tension. And then I just read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that was kind of sweet. I would say that was a love story. She's it's one of those where she's cursed and has to live forever.
Uh-huh.
There's been a couple on that
What is that? The Highlander, that
Yeah,
series. Love through the
no
generations.
Outlander.
Yeah.
yeah,
Outlander. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Outlander.
And
That's
then
it.
I really like the unusual relation, not romantic love between a couple. but the love of just these random friends and neighbors who come in your life, like the storied life of AJ Fikry.
Oh, that's a good one. No, I have not read that.
I read it, and then I was on a plane, and I had a choice of 100 movies, and that one came up, and I was only aware of it because I had read the book. Oh my God, I loved it. And then in
Wow.
John Irving, the characters are always thrown together in these strange relationships. And Frederick Bachman, the characters are always so odd, and then you just love them by the end. And a man
Huh.
called Uwe,
Yeah.
and he's such a
Yeah.
curmudgeon, and everybody adopts him by the end. I
Yeah.
I
That's
I like
so
that kind of love.
non-romantic love is what you're
Yes,
talking about. I
yes.
I have trouble with this. I've tried Wuthering Heights and Pride and Prejudice. I love Pride and Prejudice, but mostly I love Colin Firth, which will be my next question.
Oh,
I think actually movies capture the romance stuff
oh, I
better
love
than
him.
books can. For Whom the Bell Tolls, I love Hemingway, and yet I laughed through that whole ridiculous thing with Pilar, who was a ridiculous character. Romeo and Juliet, the greatest love story of all time. I mean, what a jerk she was. Love story, ridiculous. I find the women simpering and silly and the men overbearing. And maybe that's the story of my own personal life. I'm not too sure about this. But it has
You also have to add Rebecca to that list.
oh
I mean,
yeah.
I read Rebecca when I was in my early 20s. I was like, oh my God, what a great romance. And then I read it again
I
in
know
my
what a
50s.
jerk she
I'm like,
was.
I know. It's like, why didn't she say to Maxim, what a jerk you're being,
I know
And why didn't she just talk to him?
yeah, yeah. And why did she stay in that ridiculous relation? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
So maybe
but
maybe it's age. Maybe it's aging.
or
So
just being old, I don't know, feminist. I don't know. I do know that I'm really interested in erotic writing, not porn. Come on, that's over the edge, but writing that is frank and sexual and open. That is very difficult to do. I once got a book called The Art of Writing Sex and gave it a try. It's very hard to capture that feeling of the lovemaking. It's very hard to do that, and I don't think many books do it very well. You veer between sappiness of the romance novels and porn of straight out erotica.
In the
mhm.
Frederick Bachman book Beartown, he chooses the biggest, burliest hockey kid to be the gay kid. And nobody
Hmm.
knows, he's a big burly kid. He's star of the hockey team. And when he has his first kiss with another young man, it's beautiful the way
Mm-hmm.
it's written. It was just sweet. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought he did a good job with that scene. And then another good book is The Giver of Stars, the horsepack librarian women. And they're very strong women surrounded by these horrible men. And oh my God.
That sounds right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The main character's in this horrible marriage, and the horrible father-in-law and patriarchy, and it's during like the I think during the Depression in Kentucky, and these
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
very, very strong women start a pack horse library, and they just go in the middle of the woods and up these mountains and deliver these books and run into tough situations. And in the end, that main character gets out of her horrible marriage and gets with this really nice guy. So there's sort of a love story interwoven. So I don't mind if there's a nuanced love story in it, but that's not the point of
But
the
that's
book.
not the main point of the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That actually is a way to get at it without putting so much attention on it that it becomes unreal. Jane Eyre, for example,
yeah.
I hate the love story in Jane Eyre, but the rest of the book is kind of interesting. Her growing up, her love of reading is amazing in that. Her going through the school, surviving horrible conditions. It's Charles Dickenish at the beginning. So maybe that's the secret, is when love is the main focus, the books get stinky. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Let me go back to another question on reading in general. I want to hear about the last terrific book you read, one that you kind of happened on it and it moved you. Tell us about the book and why it moved you. Kate, we'll start with you.
I would have to say The Covenant of Water by Verghese.
Mm-hmm.
He is a doctor. He's of Indian descent. This is just a big, sprawling book, covers 3 generations. He's an excellent writer. He had all sorts of lovely plot twists that I couldn't, that I didn't figure out. It was just a great story, and it was one of those books. It's like, oh, it's 800 pages, but I was sorry when it ended. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Laura, how about you? Last great book you read that just moved you. Why did it do that?
Well, like I was just talking about The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes and The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, because they both took place during the Dust Bowl / Great Depression, and they both starred strong women.
Oh, that's good. That's a good reason. I think mine I would name two. One is Chemistry Lessons, which came from one of the sisters. Very popular right now. So I didn't want to like it because, you don't want to like popular stuff. That's not cool. But it's a terrific little book. It has a problem. I mean, she believes she met her soulmate and she's never going to ever find anyone like that again. Blah. But the rest of it is so creative and fun, and about a woman trying to assert her intelligence without losing everything else in her life. I love that book. And the other one is one you mentioned, the Stephen King book. I think it's his best work ever. His 1963 book. It's a retelling of the assassination. It's a time travel book. Focused on the assassination of Kennedy, which he sees as the turning point of all modern history. And I like it. It moved me because it's so incredibly imaginative to have come up with that idea, to carry it through. And it's a huge book. And every single character, typical of Stephen King, not a great writer, but a fantastic storyteller, that every character in there is memorable. I can still remember somebody who was like 2 pages out of the 900. I love that book. I listened to it on tape as well as looked up stuff and read it later on. That was a book that really moved me. I'm frequently jealous of great writers. I write journalism and short stories and Facebook posts that are pretty popular. Not the same as a book. I'm jealous. I don't think I ever will write one. How about you, Kate? Do you wish you could, or if you could write a book, what would it be about?
Well, I'm really jealous of Ann Patchett because she
She's
writes
great.
so many good books and she never writes the same thing over again. And
Unlike John Grisham, who writes the
or
same book.
or Ann Tyler.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Ann Tyler, but she writes the same book. You just
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
in the mood.
Or who is the vampire writer? My God, she wrote
Oh,
one. Anne Rice.
Anne Rice.
Yeah. One vampire book will do you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you? Would you ever write a book? Do you think about ever writing, Laura?
I think about it all the time. And then I think that the most I could ever do is maybe write a short story, or, I like to write my little poems. So maybe just a
Yes.
little anthology of poems put together.
I think you could do that. I actually think our mother, Kate, may have had the best idea. She wanted at one time, I don't think she can anymore. She has bequeathed it to me and I'm passing. A real follow, not the crappy follow-up that was done to Gone with the Wind. Remember the book Scarlet came out? It was just like a pot boiler. It was awful. But she used to be able to recall all the strings that are left hanging that you could pick up again. Way more than just, will Rhett ever get back together with Scarlet? But the first and second husbands that Scarlet had, what happened to them? The sisters that she had, what happened to them? The kids that they had, and they're all over the book, what happened to them? She's right. That would have been a terrific book. And Mitchell never did it herself. So my mother at one point wanted to do that. We have about run out of time. We've been talking with two terrific readers today. My sister, Kate Armao, a retired midwife, a quilter, does lots. She can do anything. Just ask my mother. And Laura Bellinger, who does do everything, skis and hikes and shoots pictures and everything. As is customary on the show, we're going to make a toast. Raise your glasses, please. I am saluting all of those thinkers and imaginative people who can come up and create whole new worlds that just envelope us, that make us forget about daily life and move us to places we've never been and have thoughts we never had before. They are the real heroes of our culture, not the politicians. It's the authors. We need more of them, and we need to celebrate them. Please subscribe to an Armao on the Brink. This doesn't cost anything, and it really helps us out a lot. You can just go to the podcast platform of your choice and follow their instructions to subscribe or follow or like and rate us. The more you do that, the more sponsors that we can end up getting. And that gives us a chance to do more and more extensive programming, which I would really like. I think you would like it too. I also have to tell you about something new we have coming on later this month, an On the Brink website. This is a place where you will be able to interact with me and our guest panelists, get background information on the issues and the topics that we bring up. You can make suggestions, render complaints even. You can hear my rants, and I have a lot of opinions, you know. A weekly podcast just can't contain them all, so watch out for our upcoming website.